Welcome to another Brittany's Bites, and welcome to a new year. We are in 2026 now, so a new year calls for a new recipe. And this recipe actually comes from my friend and colleague, Leanne Bowman. She said, you gotta make these things called spinach squares. I gotta be honest, I had never heard of them before, but I thought, oh, is this a healthy recipe for the new year? We're gonna get some spinach like Popeye? Well, maybe, but we're also gonna add a bunch of cheese and a bunch of butter. So that's probably why they're so tasty. So let's give these a try. So by the way, I have the oven behind me preheating to 350 degrees, and I have a 13x9 baking dish in there, and I stuck a half stick of butter, 4 tablespoons of butter in there to just get melted into the dish. I'm gonna grab that in just a minute. It's probably melted at this point, but let's get started. We've got the big bowl here, and let's see, we have 1 cup of milk that we're gonna get started with. Just measured that out to keep things easy. 3 eggs that I have beaten so that we have them already incorporated before we try to do that in the big bowl here. Then we are going to add in, let's see, a teaspoon of salt, if I remember correctly. And then it's gonna be a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. I have a pepper grinder here, so I'm just gonna guess what that's gonna be. And I love pepper too. So I'm gonna just go ahead and put in as much as I see fit. So a few cranks. I do love pepper, so I think that's how much I'm gonna do. Then we have a teaspoon of baking powder that we're gonna put in. And then one last ingredient before I go grab the pan out of the oven and move on to our next one. But all right, teaspoon of baking powder. Then I'm gonna grab my flour over here. This is just regular, good old all-purpose flour. And I have a cup that I'm gonna put in here. This equipment is gonna be very important for our next step, by the way. All that cheese I was talking about. Okay, I'm gonna grab our 1 cup. Thankfully, I have my little leveler right here. Great. Okay, so those are just some of the few basic ingredients to get started here. Pop those there for now. I'm going to mix this all together, and then I'm gonna grab out that pan and then talk about our next ingredients. And these are sort of the stars of the show, so they're gonna be important. So I'll finish stirring this up, get it all combined, grab my pan out of the oven, and then we'll move on to the next step. We are back to continue making these spinach squares. I got the 13x9 dish out of the oven. You can see the butter is all melted along the bottom. A reminder, that is half a stick of butter that we put in there. So yep, if you wanna maybe use something else, perhaps olive oil, maybe you could do that to make it slightly healthier, but let's talk about the healthy part. So you know the spinach you can get in the freezer section, the little 10-ounce sort of squares? Well, I took 2 of those, I thawed them, and then squeezed them because you wanna get them as dry as possible. And so you can see how much water and liquid I got out, because look how much is left out of those 2 whole 10-ounce packages. So I've got this here ready to go in, and then I have it's supposed to be a tablespoon of chopped onion. That seemed like not very much, and it was hard to just chop a tablespoon, so I'm gonna use this much, but the recipe calls for a tablespoon of chopped onion. Then comes the fun part. We are gonna use a pound of Monterey Jack cheese. Now, the recipe that I was given said you could also use the Monterey Jack cheese with peppers. You probably know by now, I love spice, so I'm doing pepper jack. But again, if you don't love spice, you can go ahead and use the Monterey Jack. Now, you could get the pre-shredded cheese, but it said use 1 pound block. And there's probably a reason for that. We've talked about this before. It's because this type of cheese, when you shred it yourself, will melt so much better, because when you get the pre-shredded type, they add an ingredient to keep it, an anti-caking ingredient, so that all of the shreds don't stick together in your little bag. You could still use that, I'm sure it would be fine, but this is what we're doing. The only problem is it requires a lot of extra work to do all of the shredding. So I'm gonna get started on that. About an hour from now, we'll come back and finish this recipe. Again, I just have this box grater here. I'm just gonna shred the whole thing into this bowl, and then we'll come back. We are finally done grating all of that cheese. It was not an easy job. It's certainly a little arm workout. I was switching from hand to hand, but I'm gonna get it all out Look how lovely that looks, and it smells fantastic. Who doesn't love a big bowl of cheese, right? Okay, now we need to get everything added together. So we're gonna bring back our bowl of the ingredients we started earlier, and I'm gonna go ahead, and I think I wanna put in the spinach first. Again, this is was those huge 10-ounce, well, smaller 10-ounce boxes that I then got so much liquid out of, so much so that it's just a big glop. So I'm gonna try to stir that in a little bit and then add our 1 tablespoon of chopped onion in here. Make sure, I love onion. I'm gonna make sure I get it all in there. And then once I stir this up for just a minute, we will add in that cheese, and that is it. Then all we have to do is pour it all into this baking dish, again with that melted butter, and pop it in the oven for 45 minutes. And then there is another step after that. We're gonna have it rest for a little bit to see that it all comes together and gets set. But here we go with this all being stirred. I'm gonna add in the cheese. I don't want to miss a drop of that is for sure. Love it, and I love that it's gonna be a little spicy as well, but a reminder, you don't have to do that. Okay, all I'm gonna do now is just continue to make sure that this is all combined, and then I'm gonna pour it into this dish and pop it in the oven for 45 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about the next step. We are at the final step of our spinach squares. So I told you earlier to bake it in the oven at 350 for 45 minutes. I got it flip-flopped. It's for 35 minutes, but I kept mine in a little bit longer because I saw that the cheese was getting a little golden brown. I wanted it that way, but the recipe calls for 35 minutes in the oven. Here's the thing though, once you get it out of the oven, you want it to firm up a bit, so you're supposed to let it sit for another 45 minutes. So we've done that. We are now ready to go and cut up the little pieces and see how it turned out. So if you can see, nice and golden brown, it smells oh so cheesy. So I'm just gonna take a little square here. Oh yes, it's definitely firmed up enough to get out a little square. You know, the first one coming out of the pan is always the hardest, right? Let's see if I can do this. There we go. This is a little spinach square. It's still a little warm, so you can serve it up after setting it out for 45 minutes or so. If you want it even warmer, you could pop it in the oven for just another minute or two, and then you have your nice, warm, cheesy spinach squares. I hope you give it a try. I'm excited to try this new recipe as well. If you would like the full written out recipe, you can go online right now to WBIR.com.